Hi everyone, it's Kasia from Tarot Map, and this is another installment in Inspired Tarot Map series. And this time I'm hosting two guests. This is first time I'm hosting two guests. And welcome to Bakara Wintner and Autumn Whitehurst. Hello, girls.
Hi.
So Bakara, you might know, guys, if you in the tarot world, because she has written the What the Fuck is Tarot book, and you created also oracle decks, right? Before, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Autumn Whitehurst and Bakara have both created now this newly published Way Home Tarot, which I love, and that's why I'm hosting you two, because I'm just curious about the process of creating the deck. I'm really excited that two women got together and create a project. I always wanted to encourage sisters support each other, and just to see more support than competition, and just find it always inspiring when I see two young people like doing something exciting that brings something beautiful into the world. So let's talk about it.
Two young people, just a couple of millennials. I am not a millennial.
Two Scorpios.
You would never be able to tell that Autumn is 16 years older than me, but we do have the same birthday. We were both born on November 9th, 16 years apart.
Yeah.
Yes, that was my first question. So I thought, like as I mentioned, I usually ask about ancestry, but I just wanted to know about the star signs. So you both Scorpios, right? November Scorpios.
Yes.
And can I say the ascendant? So you Bakara, you Scorpio with...
I'm a Scorpio with Scorpio rising and a Pisces moon.
Very water, right? And you also?
And I'm a Scorpio sun, Gemini rising, Taurus moon.
Gorgeous.
But
I love the powerful Scorpio.
Moon feeds me.
But you know what? I think you need people with Taurus moon when you do projects, because they can hold and hold. Even though they Scorpio, they can get intense, but this Taurus moon can hold space and can really, in the times of they can get really like a rock. So I love this.
Amazing how big of a space Autumn held for such a long period of time for this deck. That feels like the Taurus to me, because I feel like one of the things was like, I'm not an illustrator, so I don't understand how long these things take, and I'm a very emotional person, so I'm like, it'll be done by this day because that feels right. And Autumn's like inner Taurus moon kind of looking at this 78 illustration endeavor being like, this is not gonna go down.
Well, we've worked on it like really hard for a while, both of us, and
Mm-hmm.
we're both very, 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 very happy to see it out in the world. It's a huge relief, but then also it's just coming back in like these wonderful waves, seeing people use it, so
yeah. Where is it?
Where?
Oh, it's over on the table.
It's here. So I have some questions that I wanted to ask you. So first, like two women, you don't even live in the same city, right?
No, we used to.
How did you get together, and how even did you know each other before you started talking about tarot? Can you just tell us a little bit of an intro? How did you even come together and say, hey, let's make a tarot deck, hooray?
No, you say.
Okay, so I mean, the tarot came out like the day that we met. I have a dog, and Bakara has a dog, and she was living in Brooklyn at the time, and we were just...
Oops, I think I lost connection. Can you hear me, girls? Oops, sorry, guys. Oh, are you back? I think
We're back.
Yeah, sorry. It's just like basically, as soon as you started talking, it stopped.
Okay.
So I have you on frozen.
I'm too excited.
I know.
Broke the...
So basically, we met at the dog run, and we were talking within, I think, like the first 15 minutes of us chatting, it came up because I was still in this place where I was like, you're not supposed to read cards for yourself. And I told B about this gentleman in the neighborhood. I mean, she was like, I'm a tarot reader. And this was kind of, this is when I just started working with the cards. And then
that's usually a response though, that I feel like people are going to be like, oh, cool. And then leave me alone. Like I had no idea that Autumn's gonna be like, oh, do you know Crowley? And do you read about the Thoth deck? And have you listened to this podcast? I'm like, you sent me to a reader that I went to that day.
Yeah.
Like she literally said, she's like, there's this guy across the street. He has readings. You need to go to him. Like, and it's like, I'm like, who is this person? But I did. It was so weird.
Yeah. And then we just started like hanging out in this friendship and I mean, B was just, you know, she was in the whirlwind of her life and like creating things and moving, and the conversation eventually came up. She'd written the Way Home Tarot and she was looking for
what the fuck is tarot?
I'm sorry. The what the fuck is tarot? And she was looking to have like a deck created to accompany the book, and then a conversation came out of it and we got started. It took a while, you know, it took longer than we thought it would. So because we didn't really know what it was going to look like. We didn't know if there was going to be a theme. We just sat down and started throwing ideas about what does a fool mean to us? What is the magician? What is the empress? You know, and then it was just it just grew from nothing to something. So, but it was we were very patient with the process and we mostly enjoyed it. There was a lot of laughter.
So much.
So it seems a little bit like it was kind of fated, because it sounds a little bit like magic story. Hey, let's walk my dog. I met this person, and then suddenly we like within 15 minutes we talk about tarot, which usually always, I mean, it doesn't really come up so often. Like always, like, you know, hey, what do you do? Or I'm a tarot reader. Okay, that's in this case it could come up, but usually we have a conversation about the dog and the weather and the bullshit, and then suddenly it's like 15 minutes and we're like talking about tarot deck. That's fun.
It's such a perfect reminder to me that when something is supposed to happen, it's just going to. You're not going to miss it.
Right? Like, yeah, I totally agree with this. And this is really, sometimes it's hard to let go. Like when you have an idea and it doesn't, for example, it's not manifesting for a year or 2 years, but you know that like you want to do it, and to have this faith, or like even, you know, to just let go of this struggle, like, and constant pushing, because when the time is right and it's yours, it's going to come to life. And this is perfect what you guys do manifested. But what was the most difficult thing then? Because I can see the laughter and, you know, exchanging, and I want to take part in those conversations, talking about every card. That's fun. But like, what was hard? Like, what was it technical that was hard? Like how?
I mean, for me, I'm sure that there are things that you could speak to that were very hard for you. I mean, for me, I have an established career as an illustrator, a very labor-intensive process. Faced with 78 images, I was like, I got to rethink this, you know. And originally, we were going to keep it very, very lean. There wasn't going to be any shading or rendering. It's just going to be line drawings. But like the thing just grew alongside our conversations. And so technically I had to kind of, as an artist, you know, we're really stubborn. Like I needed to refigure out and rethink how I was going to do this. And it ended up not being so much thinking it. It just ended up being like, I just had to do it. And like, it took more time than I thought it would. It kind of shape shifted. Like we had to think about colors. So technically for me, it was really difficult, but there were also some moments where, you know, we would just like how we had two very different, like we had different ideas about what the cards needed to be, you know, and it ended up being, I think we were really good with this, like the give and take, like I'll give you this and you give me this. And like, and I think it worked out really well, you know, so it was complete full on partnership. Like, you know, I felt like we were really deep dipped in each other. So, and Bakara would fly up from North Carolina, and like we would go to the studio and hang out with our notebook and, you know, drink lots of water and like, you know, spend like hours and hours and hours like chewing on this, like two cows in a field with a mouthful of cud very slowly.
Yeah, I think that this was such a joyful collaboration for me. I mean, I've partnered on enough projects to understand that like a friendship and working on something together for an extended period of time can be different things, and it never was, and it never needed to be, and that felt really good. It felt like there was even in the moments where we had disagreements about either things with the card or the timeline, it was based on this foundation of kind of mutual respect and trust. Like, I don't think that Autumn's going to have a bad idea, even if it's one that I don't like. I don't think Autumn was being lazy and slacking off just because the timeline wasn't being met. So there was kind of a benefit of the doubt that we were able to give each other throughout the process, which I think was actually really essential.
Yeah.
So actually you could say that made you better friends as well in some way, because that probably became very close.
You feel married.
It's just my tarot. The forever thing.
We feel very married for sure. Yeah.
The royal we.
So can I ask about the name? Like, who came up with the name? Or doesn't really matter who, but like, what does it mean to two of you? Like, way home. Like, what's home? You know, what's way home?
So we thought about this and it started to become really important that we get a name. We were like, what's it going to be? Like, we were like beating ourselves up over it. And I grew up in New Orleans. In New Orleans, there's a town called Westwego. It's like a part of, like, you know, it's like outside of New Orleans, Westwego. And I growing up alongside Westwego, it was always just Westwego. And then it was when I was older, I realized it was West We Go. And so, you know, we both have a very strong relationship with our understanding of what home is. It's very important to us. And as this deck developed, it definitely became a story about like remembering what we'd forgotten, but we always knew, and how to get back there, you know? So that when it clicked, we were like, way home, let's make it one word, way home. And there are people out there who may just hear it as like way home, but then there are other people who are like the way home, you know? So, right? Does that sound about right? Like,
yeah. I mean, there was one of the names that we had was the Priori Tarot, which is already known. We were playing with the word mirror for a while. Yeah. So we wanted it to be, it was always going to be this return to where you came from. And then I was thinking about the other day, I don't remember the exact moment that we decided on way home at tarot, but it was just finally correct, and it was a relief because we were almost done with the deck and it hadn't named itself. I'm like, what is this bastard child who's like refusing to be named? Like, who are you? But
yeah, I can imagine, because you know, you want to name it, like it has to be in a way catchy, it has to be simple. You can't name it like tarot of the blah blah blah, because sometimes the name can really like destroy in a way a product. And I think you both, like you, Bakara, you're a writer, so I think also the wording, like, and I think it's very original, it's beautiful. But so if you were to say like what home is, like where do you feel like, you know, you belong? Is this anywhere? Is it a place, or is it something within us? Like, how would you say anything about it?
Well, I feel like it's almost like the great cosmic joke of like us coming home to ourselves. Like, you are home wherever you are holding that deck with the intention of home. And it's like, it's tough.
I quite like it, actually, big cosmic joke. It is a little bit, because we seem to be searching for something which in the start, the whole journey kind of seems to be leading out and kind of back to us.
That can be either heaven or hell, depending on if the universe is laughing at you or with you in that moment. Like, when I'm in on the joke, that feels very enlightening, and when I'm not, it pisses me off. Like, you know,
yeah,
all the time.
But I think maybe that is the kind of part of this whole journey, to find a sense of humor and detachment, because it's like, fuck.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kasia, if you look at the cover of the box, like the image on the cover of the box is actually all of the 78 cards superimposed upon each other, with like a photo. So you're looking through the whole deck, and then, like, you know, so it,
and you're looking through the hole.
Yes, the keyhole, you know, yeah, absolutely, the keyhole. So that, I mean, that was also something we were going nuts over, is like, what is the cover of the box gonna look like? What are we gonna make this?
So it was all Autumn. This was completely, I went to bed and woke up and this existed.
Hey, but that's really cool. I didn't think of it. You know, I thought it's like a race, but that's actually 78 cards. That's cool.
Yeah,
And you're looking like to the, hey, that's awesome. I love it. Cool that you said that. I didn't know.
Yeah, with the race superimposed on top of it, you know, just so like, you know,
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so we have the name. So how about I just ask you about some cards that I've read in the comments and a little bit kind of, I wouldn't say problematic, but people weren't sure. Like, so can you tell me more about the devil card? Like, why did you choose this image? And from your perspective as an artist and like creators of the deck, like what is it for you? Can you just elaborate?
Yeah, you like to talk about like the tiger and the ring
Yeah.
yeah.
So every card has kind of gone, not every card, but most of the cards have gone through at least like a couple different possible aesthetic expressions. And the horses wasn't the first one that we came up with for the devil, but the devil was always going to be a circus animal, because we wanted to take the idea of using an animal that is inherently wild, whose nature is wild, and seeing what happens when you break it. And so with the horses, it's kind of interesting that the devil is one of the brightest cards that is in that deck, because you can almost get distracted by the lights and not see that these animals are in bondage and they're suffering and there's violence and there's lack of consent. And it's entertainment, but at a price. And then I feel like, yeah, it's like the look we really spent, I mean, Autumn spent a lot of time, and we made it really important that the look in their eyes needed to be one of like terrified horses, of like very scared and alarmed animals.
Yeah.
So the longer you look, the worse it gets.
And so having them like, you know, just sort of like the wildness, the upside down like pentagram, you know, that was all very important. But I talked about this last night. I just love that like horses and goats have the same eyes, you know, because traditionally there is a goat on the devil card, right? So yeah,
I can see it. Like sorry, Bakara, you have to repeat.
And then the perverse relationship with the material, with the upside down pentacle, like in the bondage of their headpieces, felt also part of it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I also thought, you know, of like this tricks that the animal gets taught, like that it's not its nature, but it just does this whole like bullshit level. And yeah, the eyes are very like, I don't know if you can see nicely to the audience. I'm saying like there is this madness kind of in the eyes, and like this, it can be like scary, but there's definitely not a normal horse eye when it just go, oh, what a nice horse. So something is off, and that fits devil. I also feel like in some way there is still this instinctual nature that comes with devil, because I always like seeing cards from both sides, you know, devil is not all bad. So I always trying to look for something good in an image in the tarot. That's why sometimes some decks I just cannot work with, because they just limit your interpretation of an archetype. And to me, devil also is, you know, like this life force and this kind of laughing in face of rule, let's say, or breaking the rule. So I think this strength of this horse is nevertheless, and the instinctual nature somewhere here in the body, like of the horse, it carries for me this, you know, the penis of the devil and this kind of like pure life force of those animals nevertheless. But the circus shit, that's really good. So anything else? Or
I mean, just the general like intoxication of that card, you know, like if you were a child and you arrived at the circus and you're like, oh my God, and you're like junking out on the lights and the smells and like all the activity, right? But then like once your mind stills, like if you are able to get out of that intoxication, like you see what's happening, you know? And I mean, I think about the devil, I think about like attachments to like the things that we think that like we need to identify with our ego-based self, you know. And then like once you get away from there, that there's a kind of a like a clarity. But also like, I mean, we junk out on that stuff, like shopping, drinking, like, you know, just gorging ourselves and like the intoxicated, which isn't always a bad thing. We need to do that, like we need to do that, you know, swell up and like pour out. But so that was really important to me, that like I kind of like the colored lights was B's idea, but like, you know, that we kind of bring this like wildness, this intoxicated wildness.
Well, I feel like, and I also feel like no matter how fun the devil can be, the devil's fate is the tower. Like it's going so even like the entertainment comes at such a cost because freedom is going to be a calamity at that point.
Yeah.
Like it's a calamity to induce freedom. So
Yeah,
damn,
cool.
I never thought that hard about the devil card before this moment. But we really we went a few layers deeper this time.
It's an interesting image just because it's so unoriginal. I mean, original and so untypical that like I think a lot of people, you know, sometimes when you get faced with an image, like your brain doesn't quite get the connection. So I think that circus thing, and I don't know if you write about it in the What the Fuck is Tarot in any, because somebody said What the Fuck is Tarot is the companion book to the deck, but it's not really, is it?
Yeah.
So would you describe, you wouldn't be able to describe the image itself because you didn't have the deck yet? Or
there is actually Autumn's sketches, rough sketches of
are there?
is in the book. The images aren't described. I guess conceptually it's the same because they were.
Yeah, but what I mean that you wouldn't write like, oh, this would be about circus, not specifically to this particular image.
No, we are going to be making a smaller guidebook that specifically pertains to the imagery of the deck.
Yeah, okay. So Temperance, if we can. That's one of my favorite cards as well. And I love peacocks and all of this, but like, yeah, I would love to. I couldn't, like I was doing the review and I'm like, I don't know about this. I don't know how to go. So you guys enlighten me, please.
Well, it's a white peacock, right? And it's basically the illuminated self. I mean, we did so much like around this day. Like when we were done, we were just like, we had to trace back like our process because at what, you know, it's equal measures like research and intuition and then everything that we were bringing like that was personal to the deck. And the white peacock represents like transmutation of like all the different selves, like, you know, the former self into like the now self into like the higher self. And then there was something that like I pulled cards for Bakara a couple of days ago. We were just having some fun and realizing, you know, looking at it like all the different eyes, like the eyes looking out, like the angelic, the archangels, the
ascended masters.
Yeah.
It's like the pair of eyes that you have, that you know that you have, and also all the eyes that are behind you that you might not be conscious of, that are kind of guarding this alchemical process of transformation that you see with the amethyst nest. And amethyst is the, I guess, crystalline combination of fire and water meeting and creating something greater than the sum of its parts. So it's kind of a magically colored fire and water because we didn't want to make it too wizardy in its color scheme, but it basically is this idea of this being that represents alchemical transformation, guarding this process of alchemical transformation for who it's looking out for. It's an angel, a peacock.
Yeah.
I love the addition of the eyes. Like now I'm going to see this as well, this application of the kind of angelic being as the eyes kind of watching over you. That's pretty cool.
Well, you know, it's funny because like even in like, I mean, even when we're playing with the cards now, like we're still learning from the cards. Like even though we created them and like drew them, you know, like pulling the cards, like we're still finding like new things in the way that they interrelate when we lay them down, which has been so much fun. Like, you know, and I mean, not surprising, but not surprising, I guess, right? Like they surprise us. So I just like, I've talked to a couple other people who have created decks and they're like, yeah, this is just what happens. Like you create it in a blur and like there's parts of you that seem to kind of drop out while you're creating it. And then like you look at it once it's done and it's talking back to you. It's not like you already know what it's going to say. It talks back to you, you know? So.
But I think this is fascinating about art and how you, in the process of creating, but also that's why I think I like many different tarot decks and these expressions, because you can know a deck well and you still notice different aspects depending on the question, on the situation, like other, you know, little details draw your attention and stuff like this. But I can imagine for I don't know, I never created a deck, but this is an interesting input that even for you who made the illustrations or who created the deck, you still finding it surprising. That's good.
I'm very grateful for it. Honestly, I'm so glad that happens. Like,
yeah. Can I ask about the Four of Cups? Because that doesn't really play so much with the Rider-Waite-Smith image. More, I would say, with Marseille maybe. But and I love Marseille, but I was just curious.
Well, this was one of the last cards. This took we had so many different concepts for this. I drove Autumn absolutely insane.
Fucking Four of Cups, like no.
The Four of Cups was definitely one. By the end of it, I'm like, what does the Four of Cups even mean again? I'm like Googling like the Four of Cups. I'm like, do I even read tarot? Like, what? I don't know what it's supposed to look like. So initially it was this like stream that you see underneath of clean water, and there's going to be a rock in the cups are going to be upside down with dirty water in them. So they're like on the rock.
Yeah.
So there's like, they're holding dirty water in their cups, but there's clean water available. But then it gave this kind of negative connotation to the Four of Cups. And so what I wanted it to show was like having resources available that you're choosing not to participate in. So there's water underneath. You can fill your cup. You don't have to fill your cup. It's going to rain. Like the rain could fill your cup. Either way, it's going to get filled. So you're kind of putting off this emotionally inevitable thing, whether it's because you're being a brat or you don't trust what's available. And so it kind of leaves it up to interpretation of why are you leaving your cup empty if it could be filled. Sometimes there's wisdom in that. Sometimes it's foolish, but it leaves it kind of open-ended in that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
No more question. The last card before I ask you about everyday, but this one, Nine of Wands. To me, it's like such a wish card, but usually Nine of Wands traditionally it's kind of, like you struggle for to get to the end of something. So how did you see this one?
Well, I mean, if you do think about what it takes, like at the end of your rope to get to the goal, it does kind of take wish energy, like filling your will with that beautiful, I mean, it's gotta be enough to carry you through, so.
But actually so the Six of Wands in this deck with the mountain top with the 6 wands,
that's right.
That was initially the 9 of Wands, and this was initially the 6 of Wands, and the finality of sending something up in the air and wishing on it because it's all that you can do, it's the only thing left to do, felt very 9 to me. It kind of captured the exhaustion, but not without hope that you find yourself at in the 9.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense when you explain it. I was just thinking where is the struggle in this one? But I can see that the last push, this energy output that gives you this you have to have some hope, and you cannot give up now because you're nearly there.
I feel like the struggle is you, the person who lit the lantern and sent it up. It's like to even wish for something connotes the struggle to get it.
I've actually never successfully been able to get one of those lanterns.
Really? I did that in Thailand.
Burst into flames and I'm stopping.
Incredibly cursed.
To Gemini on ascendant, you were probably too fast. Okay, then no.
Yes, too easy.
I actually did put one out in the skies. When I met my husband, we went on a date once, and there was some festival in my city, and we were walking around, and somebody came up do you want to light this lantern? And we just lit it and put it up, and they took photo of us, and we were in the newspaper.
You know what's really interesting, actually? It's out of context, I guess, that this doesn't.
And they both disappeared.
Landline. So I feel if you go, when I went to Thailand and I did this, I didn't really know. I'm I was traveling, I was having fun, but this is a prayer ceremony for people. I mean, it's a form of going and to
sending your prayer to the skies.
I suppose the context also matters because it's not necessary. It's celebratory because it's beautiful. But
we can also
is when there's nothing left to do. You're kind of done. You send it up.
But we could also play of Autumn experience, that 9 of Wands. It was so bloody hard to light this one. That to light 9 would be a hard work.
True. I can't even
Never thought of it that way.
much less 9. I mean, if you had to, yes, thank you, Kasia.
So thank you for these, girls. I think maybe people will appreciate really, especially the devil and the temperance, because there was a bit like, oh, what does it really mean, and how did they see it? I think that's really you explained it beautifully. And I have this question about tarot. So we mentioned a little bit, but so maybe I start with Bakara, because she is a tarot queen, writing books and published author. Like, when did you start like tarot and reading tarot? And actually, do you still read for people, or is it now everyday magic takes all your energy and you kind of don't really have time for that? How does it work?
Everyday magic does take all my energy, but I still do individual readings for people, not with the frequency. But I do a public live reading on Everyday Magic at 6 p.m. every Sunday, just to kind of engage with the cards and engage with the community. I've been reading tarot now since, oh my God, November of like 2013, 14.
I don't know. Don't look at me.
It used to not feel like very long, and it feels like longer now. It's like 5+ years, like 6+ years. It's still not a lot of, it still feels quick. Like it all went by very fast, but I was gifted a deck randomly, and it just changed my life almost overnight.
Yeah. So did you feel like, like, because I wanted to ask, like, what does tarot mean to you? Because, the series was like, I wanted to show various aspects of tarot, and the tarot cards can be used in so many different ways. Can be used in healing, can be used in readings, can be used in artistic expression in many different ways, and actually take the stigma of tarot, that this is 78 pieces of art that are actually beautiful, and the stigma that is attached to tarot is basically the devil. It's this lack of clarity and what you put onto that 78 pieces of cards. So I was just wondering, like, if you read tarot, like, do you ever have to explain yourself? Like, I don't know how it is in the States, because I'm in Poland, so sometimes it's like very religious country, and it's very, in this regards, I think a lot of the stuff, a lot of people love it, but it's like very under surface, you don't really go out. Like it's hard for me to go here and say I'm a tarot reader, because I'm constantly being put into this box of like ESO TV tarot reader. And I know I'm not that type of tarot reader, and I don't treat tarot cards the same way. So that's why I wanted the series, to get people to show that like a lot of people use tarot in different ways, and it's not always about predicting futures. And it can be about predicting future. I don't have any issue with it, but it's not always that, and it's not only this. So how do you use tarot, Bakara? Do you just do you use it in a predictive way, or do you use it more in a healing way, or how would you say?
I mean, it sounds almost dramatic, but tarot has like completely reframed my psyche and changed my entire world. It has recontextualized the way I look at situations. It's recontextualized my understanding of archetypes. So, I mean, it's my relationship to the tarot is religious. I can speak to religious people because I understand their sentiment. I understand their faith. And so it's just the same, like, be respectful of my faith and I'll be respectful of yours. But you can't tell me, I mean, on a personal level, tarot works for me as a faith. Like, it has made me a better person. It's given me a job. It's given me purpose. It's given me money. It's given me community. Like, every wish I've ever had. So it's a faith that works. I mean, yeah, like, where's your God now to the hater who's like telling me that my life is evil from their cubicle and their like miserable world? Like, it doesn't matter to me anymore. It's what I lead with. I tell everyone. I would get it like tattooed on my forehead if I had to. It's my whole life. Yeah.
We can do that today if you want.
Let's do it. Tarot daddy.
So do you use it every day? Do you read for yourself as well? You use it as a self-exploration, self-development tool, all of this?
Since these decks came out, since Way Home came out, I use it. It's just on my coffee table. It's part of my daily conversation with myself and the universe.
Yeah. And you, Autumn, how would you say? Is it any part of your life at all? Because, it doesn't have to be. I'm just wondering.
No, I mean, it is. I started working with it as a meditation tool. I kind of like lost my ground several years ago. Like fault lines just opened up and swallowed me. And like, you know, I fell in screaming very much. It's like Alice in Wonderland when she goes down the rabbit hole. Never going to watch that movie the same way again. And, you know, I needed to like grab some rungs really quick. And like the first thing that it was like, I started with a meditation practice. And then I learned that, you know, people use tarot for meditation practice. And that's how it entered like my life. I mean, I grew up in New Orleans, and I have a very like magical mother and a deep dipped in like, you know, I mean, there's just altars everywhere. And so I think that was always a part of my life, but I got really far away from that because I like, you know, went to school, like figured out how to make a living, all these practical things. And then like when the chasm opened up and gobbled me up, like I needed, it ended up being like meditation, and then meditating on the cards that helped me just like, I needed some structure. I needed some help. I needed something to stand up on, you know? And so that's how tarot became a part of my practice. But then the reason why I started throwing cards for other people was because, like studying the tree of life and like a little bit of numerology and like doing, I mean, there's, and when I explain tarot to somebody, I'm like, it's like taking a slice out of a cake. You're looking at like a cross section or a mirror of you at that moment, but there's this thing that happens when you pull cards, like for yourself, where you keep pulling the same damn cards, so I was like, I need to start pulling cards for other people just so I can see these other cards and work with them, and that's what happened. It's like a gift when somebody is like, I want you to read for me. I'm like, thank you. Because like, I'm going to see cards in the deck that I never see for myself. And that's one of those things that's just unexplainable. And I don't need to, it's like, I just let it, I'm not trying to figure out like how or why that works, because that's like, that's the unknown. Maybe it's the unknowable, falls under the umbrella term of magic. But it's also incredibly good for me because I am very much a Gemini rising. I will just like flap my gums until like the sun sets and I pass out. And it's a really excellent way, if I pull a series of cards, for me to engage in like how that story reveals itself back to me. I mean, I definitely believe that we live in a state of storytelling, and a lot of our reality is created by the stories that we tell ourselves, and I think that that's the power of the cards. If you're willing to give a little bit of like that back, like you have that exchange, you respect the cards, and you would allow it to help you reframe your story, whether it's for the day or like a monumental problem, or a friend's like, a friend comes to you for help. That's I think that's for me a lot of the muscle of it. Like that's how I work with it now, and it's just it's medicinal in ways, I guess. Like
Yeah. Like that's why I think I called myself Tarot Map, or the business, Tarot Map, just because it's like a map. Do you find yourself walking around and going like, fuck, I feel like I'm in 5 of Cups or something, like that you refer your situations and your experience back to tarot, and you kind of can see also how the map works, because that before 5 of Cups is 4 of Cups, but after 5 of Cups is 6 of Cups. And that's what we were when we were talking about Devil, that after Devil comes Tower. So there is this like, where you're going when you keep going with Devil and not get any awareness around what you're doing. So it's quite fascinating, I think. And I think tarot is it's a co-creation tool. Like it's not always showing what's going to happen, but it definitely shows like what can happen or what might not happen. It's really a lot depends on you and how much energy and awareness you put into the process also of engaging with the cards. They're not just like, because that would mean that everything is fucking written and we have totally no free will. Like I just don't like that.
I love that you're saying map, because I think it is exactly a map. Like, but I think it's a puzzle of a map, and every piece of the puzzle can fit with any other piece of the puzzle. But it's nice that there's only 78, even though it's infinite within those, and their relationships and meanings can change. It provides some kind of container. It's a map, but across space and time.
Yeah, totally.
I think that, at any given moment, like the second before this second now and the second in front of this second, like we are in all 78 of those energies, you know, like all, and we're constantly in a state of creation and destruction. Like there are things that are growing and dying inside of me and you right now as we speak, you know, and you
speak for yourself, Gemini rising.
Scorpio, this one, Scorpio. Death is always present. Death to all of us. But that's true. And I always thought, like, you know, when I thought of tarot map, like white tarot map and stuff, I thought, like, you know, there's many ways to get to somewhere, and it's really up to you to choose which one. And I think that we could go like with this image, you know, there is many ways, and you can fucking pick any of them to get to Rome.
The way home.
And exactly, they all lead home.
Oh
God. What else do I have? I have the last question, and I wanted to speak about spirituality as well, because we were talking like that we like swearing, and you know, like how do you feel? Because there's a lot of talk about, you know, this superficiality and spiritual bypassing and being all good and nice, and when you swear you might not be that spiritual. And how would you say, like, what spirituality is, or like how can you be a spiritual person and still be real and, you know, engage in like humanity, basically? I think I know it's a bit difficult question, but
people ask me about my swearing so much because the book is called What the Fuck is Tarot, but like I can like my swearing is not performative. It's just how I talk. And the way that I decided to do this from the beginning was to never deviate from who I actually was, because I knew that the mask would get too exhausting at some point. Even if I could hold it up for like a few years and scrub myself clean and hide the warts and the scars, like it's just not who I am. And I would either abandon it because it wouldn't be real for me after a while, or I would hate it and like become like a robot person. So that was what I just decided to I don't even use like capitalization. I talk to people exactly the way I text, except in the book when I needed to use grammar. But it works for the people that resonate with my voice, because it is my voice.
I mean,
go on.
I'm very much like now like a very heart-based person, and there are a lot of like love and light people in my life, but you know, then I was just talking to Bakara about this a couple of days ago. We were having lunch and I was saying, like, I am in a place in my life, like I'm 45, you know, I'm about to enter like the back end of my life, unless Elon Musk finds a way to keep me alive a lot longer than I need to be, you know? and you know, it's really important that I navigate like the Vanta Black shadowy corners of myself, and that I invite my demons to the dinner table to sit down and eat with me a beautiful meal and like get to know them. You know, I don't feel like you can, I mean, we live in a dualistic reality. Like you can't just fully merge with like, you know, like this with the light. Like, I mean, you can't be whole unless you know who you are in the dark, you know? And I think that that's becoming really, really important work to me. Like, it's really important that I become whole. If I become whole, then I see you as whole, or I can help you. It's not just about me. Like, I mean, I realize that I feel like my life is like a hall of mirrors, and like, you know, whatever, if I pinch myself, the rest of the world gets pinched. If somebody out there like steps on a butterfly, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like very, as cliche as it is, I do feel very unified with everything, but I feel that part of my responsibility is to be whole in that unification. And that means me embracing like my devil. That means me like sitting in my darkness and having conversations like full of foul language, or, you know, maybe not, maybe we speak in poetry. Like, I don't know, but engaging with like the darker aspects of my persona, especially like understanding that there are things that happen to us in our life, and like I'm really good at compartmentalizing things, you know, like something happens and I'm like, I'm not gonna deal with it, I'm just gonna shove it over here. Well, that shit like grows like in the dark, and it feeds off the, like, you know, whatever's growing in the dark. And like, I feel like if you don't learn to like not confront those things, but like to stand next to it, maybe hold hands with it, like those things gain power and they become bigger than you are, you know. And I sometimes like I like see it, people, it manifest in like weird like body things, or like they're just kind of, there's just something that's not aligned in the best interest of themselves. And so that's really like when we're talking about like the darkness, I feel like that is really important work, and not everybody has, but for me it's like it feels critical, you know. And that's definitely a bridge that I'm crossing over. I don't really even know what that looks like yet, but it's like, you know, when something's calling, you follow, you just go.
Yeah. I really like it, because I think that's the only really responsibility that we have, is to fucking fix ourselves. We cannot really help anybody or fix the world as soon as we and fix, in a sense, I'm not meaning like fix myself, but just as you said, like witness all the parts that we have, you know, like hold hands, it's perfect as well, but I like the witness came to mind, like that you see it. And I think also, you know, this striving for perfection, for fixing, for constantly being better and doing and being all this like perfect humans, that's so much fucking pressure and unnecessary pressure that doesn't really lead you like far away, because a lot of stuff gets put aside into the little compartments, and you know, then they grow and you start projecting shit onto other people.
Totally.
We also recognize, like, as above, so below. Like, the world is not all love and light, and we are beings of this world. So when someone comes and claims just love and light, then it's not true. It's like, it's just another manifestation of ego.
And you feel it usually as like you feel it, because we are perfect. We have fucking perfect machine working here. And our intuition, like we know, you know, when somebody lies, you know, when somebody's dishonest, you know, when somebody is trying too hard, you know, to impress or something. And I think that's why tarot is also such a wonderful system, because it has fucking everything. It has the light, it has the darkness, it has all the parts of and shades of shadow, you know, of black and white and everything. So I think this is an amazing tool to practice. And it's a mirror.
So. I don't fuck with people anymore unless I know what they're doing with their shadow, unless I can see where you keep it. Like, because if someone says like, oh, I'm not really like that, it's just like, that means that what that translates to me is like, oh, you haven't done any shadow work. You're going to explode in the way that people do when they haven't done any shadow work, and the chasm comes to call and swallows you whole. And I just
but sometimes it's hard, because it also comes with, you know, like I constantly catch myself on judgment also, you know, because it's another one, because I don't want to fucking constantly come from this high horse like, oh, you haven't done shadow work and you haven't done this and you haven't done this, and I see it. You know? And even though I see it, I'm just thinking, oh, but I was there. How can I somehow help this person, and not help lead them by hand, but like, how can I help them not to like knock them down, when sometimes I feel like knocking them down and going like, what the fuck, just shut up, or like go and talk to somebody else, because I have no compassion for you right now and I can fucking hear it. But it's hard to like practice some form of like, how can you be helpful without judging, and knowing when you can actually step away and go, fuck this, it's just can't do it, and how sometimes you can help.
I think that like recognizing that, like, I mean, for me, what's been really helpful is like seeing that everybody is on their own path, you know, and everybody that this is my react, but like, you know, that dude who's lying in the ditch, who smells like pee, is some aspect of myself. Like, that's me in a ditch, like lying, you know what I mean? That guy who's like, you know, I don't know, driving by like, I don't know, like in his like crazy fucking sob, like yelling at his girlfriend on the phone or whatever, is also me. Like, I mean, you know, the person who is all love and light, and it's just like, that's an aspect of like me, and like, you know, and I'm an aspect of them. And like, it's so, I mean, it just letting people be wherever they are on their path, and then seeing them for where they are. And I think also like without judgment, and that is something that we're constantly needing to check ourselves on. Like,
I know it's very hard for me. Like, constantly feel like going like, fuck, can't you see? Look at yourself, take responsibility, just take a look back, like, look here.
I think that the difference between judgment and discernment is the emotional charge of it. Like to be able to look at something and say that is not for me is a heroic act of self-protection and boundary. It's like it doesn't have to, when it becomes, it's judgment when you make yourself better or worse than that person. But I think the act of knowing yourself well enough to know like this is just not for me.
Yeah, that's a very important point, definitely. Yeah, because often we get caught up in this spiral of, I don't know, trying to fix somebody when it's like not really your job.
And that's judgment. Trying to fix someone is judgment, than being able to see them as they are and just understand that it's not a match for you with your limited time, your limited attention, and your limited resources as a human on this planet.
Totally. And this is shadow judgment, because most of the times you're not aware that you're actually doing it. Yeah, you're projecting your shit onto this person and trying to help them. It's like, no. Yeah, totally. Okay, I think we nearing our hour. I think that's it. I asked you all the questions that I prepared. I usually finish this with a question about, like, can you share any ways? How do you like using a card, like on daily basis? Do you just pull like one card a day? Do you do daily draws? Do you do anything like this? Can you share maybe something that you do with cards, like to just share with us how you play daily for yourself?
Yeah. I like to fan them out in like a line, and then I'll keep them on my coffee table, on my altar. They'll be by like flowers or whatever. And then at any point during the day when I'm in my home and I have a question or an anxiety or a thought or concern, I'll just pull a card, I'll look at it, and then by the end of the day, it's like a spread. And then at the end of the day, I'll sit down with the spread and see what kind of got communicated that day.
Cool, I like it. Yeah.
So, if I sit down with a question, being like, what should I do about this, and pull cards for myself, like I can't, my intuition doesn't work that. I care too much about what happens to me. Like I won't be able to do it. But if it's kind of more casual and ritualistic in a different way than the ritual I use when I read for people, then I can get into it.
I'm a lot less exciting. Like I used to pull just one card, but now I'll like pull three because like I like to contextualize it. When Bee's here and she does the fan thing, I do the fan thing with her because it's a lot of fun, you know, but like I generally like, depending, like, I mean, sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, like I need to like sit down and like pull some cards, like, and I will pull a spread, or every once in a while I'll open a book and I'll find somebody else's spread and I'll use that just to like, you know, because I get bored of myself sometimes. Or I will have a deck in my hand if we're like watching television, or if I'm talking on the phone with somebody. Sometimes I'll just like cut the deck and like look at a card as kind of a significator, I guess. Like, you know what I mean? Just like, so like a, like, so, and then like, you know, maybe like pull a card around like my feelings around like whatever. But like, so, you know, I've started, I know most people carry their cards with them like everywhere. I've just started like doing that, and so that I can, you know, if we're in the car or something, I can cut the deck and look at a card, like, but yeah, so I'm not it's, I guess it's pretty intuitive and pretty random, really.
Yeah, I feel like it's different right now. Like, I feel like what I'm doing with the cards every day is essentially like Narcissus admiring his own reflection in the lake, because I'm so in love with the new cards with our deck right now that I just like, it's not just a mystical moment. It's like it's kind of integrating that this exists and that we did. Because I wasn't using cards daily before Way Home came out. Like they were this definitely revived my love of tarot.
Oh, sounds good. I actually love using also tarot daily, not even for tarot's sake as a system or like to see but I love it for art. It just inspires me to look at good art. So I'm always like pulling different decks. Sometimes I don't even have any questions or anything, like what is going on, but just like, oh, this looks good together, and it already inspires me. I think beauty heals. So anyway, we use art, it's perfect. And I think tarot is my love, but art is definitely my love too. And putting the two together is like perfect. Yeah, we have galleries at home.
I enjoy watching you do that. Like where you're like, when you're doing that, you're like, oh, these are so beautiful together. I'm like, like,
and I have so many decks, you know, so I'm thinking like, I'm not a collector in the sense of like I'm collecting and they're just lying on the shelf. Like I like using my decks. I use all my decks, and I'm thinking I have to find a way to use more decks. In like, if I just use one, I'm like, no, they're all waiting. Like I want to use them. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, well, I think we're going to finish, and thanks for the lovely conversation and for creating this awesome deck. Whoever hasn't seen it yet, which I doubt that there is anyone, but maybe there is, you can guys, I will link all the links when you can find the deck below in the description box. There's also a review that I did of this deck, many other reviews online that you can check it out. I personally like seeing all the cards before I purchase something, but if people don't want to see all the cards, then you have to skip bits because I'm showing all the cards. And thanks so much for sharing your thoughts on this deck and on the process and friendship and life. See? That's the end. That's the end. Shut up, Kasia.
No, thank you so much, Kasia.
Thank you, girls. So I'm going to stop recording. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I speak to you soon. Bye.